Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful Sunday out there. And boy, oh boy, does the pattern look ripe going into January for major winter weather, including potential snow, ice, and Arctic air that is likely to spill into the eastern half of the country. And unfortunately, folks, as much as we like snow and all that fun stuff, this could be dangerous levels of cold air in many parts of the lower 48, and maybe comparable to the cold outbreak of 2021 and plenty of other just crazy analogs well back into the 1900s showing up on some of our models. So let's break it all down for you in today's video. Let me give you the latest on it. Now, I will ask, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit that bell for the latest notifications. That'll make sure you're the first to hear about the latest model guidance on this potential Arctic outbreak and potential major winter storm producing pattern as we enter the month of January. And of course, go ahead, like the video, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and consider sharing the video with somebody that you think may find it useful or may need to see it as we get into this very active period ahead. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and start talking weather, and let me give you the latest. Now, starting with satellite imagery like we normally do, you can see on our map we already have a pretty, feisty storm working over portions of the country. This brought tornadoes yesterday from Texas through Louisiana and Mississippi, and unfortunately there was at least one confirmed fatality, and obviously you hate to hear that, and hopefully the number doesn't go up anymore, but just goes to show December or May, it doesn't matter, tornadoes can kill, and that's why you need to be always kind of prepared for it. And it's going to be the same story with winter weather. That unfortunately can also be dangerous and cause havoc to life and property, and that'll really be the big topic going into January. But before we get there, this storm is still cranking up and currently crossing the eastern half of the country, and we'll have a tornado threat once again today. In fact, already ongoing through portions of the southeast as the storm is strengthening and pulling northward, and will also bring some strong gusty winds and plenty of heavy rain through much of the east. Now, outside of that, you'll notice another little disturbance out west, kind of this area off the Pacific Northwest coastline. This is our pattern change initiator is kind of what I'm calling this one. This will be the start of the kind of cooler pattern ahead. It's been quite warm for a little bit. This one will kind of beat that back down a little bit before true Arctic air arrives after kind of the first week or so of January, and really during the first week of January and continuing towards the middle of the month, looking more and more likely. Now, current radar imagery, let's go ahead and dive right into this big time storm real quick, because, I mean, what a look on radar. We've got this strong bow echo kind of segment from North Georgia, or really East Tennessee, all the way back down into the Gulf Coast. And because of that, a newly issued tornado watch for much of the Carolinas and portions of Georgia that the line has yet to cross through for later this morning and into the afternoon. But even outside of the severe weather threat, heavy rain here on the backside of the storm. And you can kind of tell right where the center of it would be, or basically right over Nashville right now, as you can kind of see these kind of different warm sectors and cold sectors with it. We've kind of got our cold conveyor on this side, and then our warm conveyor, also known as the low-level jet, on the other side of the storm. So a very feisty-looking mid-latitude cyclone on this December day, and one to take pretty seriously. And then out west, like I mentioned, the next storm already cranking up with rain and snow falling out this way. That will cross the country and bring some potential snow, but more importantly, start to establish that cold air for potential snowfall as we go through the next 7 to 10 days, and honestly, really the next 7 to 15 plus days potentially. This pattern looks to hold on for many of us in the east. Now, I mean, I'll be honest with you, folks, I can't remember the last time we had our watches, warning, and advisory map this busy, but today it sure is. We've got that tornado watch in yellow here, again, newly issued for much of South Carolina and portions of North Carolina, Charlotte, Columbia, Charleston, all the major cities here in this one, and could potentially get extended even further east throughout the day. We will see and monitor that, but that's not the only threat. We have wind advisories up in these beige boxes through really just about all of the Ohio Valley, from, well, basically the entire state of Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and into much of Indiana, and even back into the Pittsburgh area for gusty winds associated with this storm system. Could be gusting in that 40 to 50 mile an hour range today and this evening, and that'll definitely be something you want to monitor. All the gray boxes are dense fog advisories, all that warm, humid Gulf air streaming out in front of this storm system. and still kind of even lingering in places behind it. That's producing very dense fog for many folks. And then out west, heavy mountain snow ongoing, coastal rain, strong winds. Again, really nobody in the lower 48 is being spared from this active weather currently. And that's going to be a theme that unfortunately continues. Meteorology in Minutes segment today, you can kind of see this piece of energy. It's not hard to find at all. Plenty of spin and vorticity here at 500 millibars, or about halfway up in the atmosphere over much of the Ohio Valley, and that is what's producing all of this lift. We talk about this all the time. This is now a negatively tilted trough, and there's kind of three stages to trough progression. There's positively tilted, neutrally tilted, and then negatively tilted. Positively tilted meaning the storm's just getting its act together. Neutrally tilted meaning it is kind of halfway there, if you will, to reaching max intensity. And then once you start getting that negative tilt and the storm kind of finally begins to occlude, that is usually about the peak intensity of the storm, and that's what's going to happen today and into overnight tonight with this low pressure. And remember that, because those three stages are going to be very important for your understanding of these storm systems coming up in January. It's going to be a crucial kind of meteorological point to hammer home. And I'll remind you, of course, but just kind of remember those three stages to cyclogenesis as we get a little bit later on in this video. All right, so again, here's the big storm. Kind of watch how that evolves over the day today. Later this morning, crossing through the Ohio Valley, eventually by this evening getting up towards Michigan. And it's at this point the low begins to stack, as we say, meaning the surface low pressure and the center of low pressure up in the upper or mid levels kind of align. And once that happens, the storm is done strengthening. It has kind of occluded, and meaning it should begin to slowly weaken. And I think that'll be the trend with this once it kind of gets up past Michigan. But before we get there, folks, it's going to be a day of severe weather. Now, the whole kind of piece of energy slides up through the northeast by early this coming week, and behind it, our next storm system. This is what's over the PNW currently, going to cross through the Rockies and get into the plains by about Monday, Tuesday, and this one could produce some snow into the interior northeast as it kind of works up into that way by Tuesday and into Wednesday. But more importantly, this is going to be the tone setter for January, I think. And it's going to happen basically as the calendar flips. We're going to see the new year begin, and we're going to see that new pattern begin with, again, potentially dangerous cold, and record snow is a very real possibility for some folks in the month of January. All right, severe weather today. We do need to talk about this really quickly, and then we'll start talking about all that wintry stuff. A slight risk of severe weather from Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte, all the way down through the entire state of South Carolina and much of Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. You saw it on radar. Big bow echo currently working through this area, and that will produce strong straight line winds, including a slight tornado threat today. It's not huge, but we do have a 5% area from Charlotte down to Augusta. And notice another little area up here into Ohio, kind of where the actual center of low pressure is. Going to be a lot of wind energy up in that region. Instability will be the bigger question. Down south, a little bit more overlapping of that wind shear and instability that could produce a couple tornadoes, and kind of still some question marks there too. We could potentially have 2 rounds of severe weather, the big morning bow echo QLCS, and then potentially also this afternoon maybe some more isolated storms try to form behind it. That'll be kind of a bigger question that we need to iron out throughout the day, but do know there is a very real tornado threat today and just severe weather threat in general. Alrighty, let's go ahead and time this out for you and look at the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model. This is about 9 a.m. this morning, so you might be watching this video around here, maybe later in the afternoon. Either or, the video still applies to you. But strong low pressure currently at this point likely over the Ohio River Valley and moving up towards Ontario. And we're going to have those 2 sectors of severe weather. Again, this big warm sector to the south, and then also kind of this more triple point kind of sector through Ohio, just meaning that's where kind of the warm front, the cold front, and some other ingredients are kind of lining right up in that region. So moving through ahead into time, good old-fashioned rain up through Indiana, Michigan, and into the northeast. Severe weather with this strong line of storms into the Carolinas roaring through later on this afternoon. And then you notice a couple of these storms trying to fire here right along that low pressure into portions of Ohio through the afternoon. And that'll really be the main threat areas. Now, by the time the sun sets, we get to about 8, 9 o'clock, severe weather threat begins to dwindle, but do not lose or do not stop paying attention, I guess is the better way to word it. This little skinny line of secondary storms that could try to form this evening in the central Carolinas that'll have a shot at producing severe weather as well if we can get the atmosphere to rejuice up enough, and that could also produce a tornado threat. So watching that, but through the evening hours, then the attention shifts. Severe weather will begin to die down through the overnight, and noticing some snow forming here on the backside of this low pressure, kind of a bit of a deformation band there up into northern Michigan and into portions of Canada. That wet, heavy snow that could begin to accumulate to a couple of inches into northern Michigan, not out of the question, but overall, not a huge event. Now, we go through tomorrow morning, the storm kind of beginning to weaken, moving up into Canada, and still seeing some rain here along the I-95 corridor, especially in southeastern New England. But then by Monday afternoon, that first storm begins to kind of really clear on out. This is Monday evening, 7 Eastern, and then you'll notice here comes the next storm beginning to get its act together, producing some snow into South Dakota, Nebraska, and some good old-fashioned rain down into Missouri and Iowa, and that segues us perfectly into that storm. And let's go ahead and start timing out this big pattern change. Now, there's kind of 3, 4-ish storm signals that we're looking at right now. This is the first one, and this one I don't think is going to be a big deal, but could absolutely produce a little bit of snow into the interior northeast. So that's what we'll call storm signal 1. And then storm signal 2 is just going to kind of be maybe some clipper energy or some lighter snowfall potential through this coming week, kind of later on into the week. And then we get storm number 3 and 4, at least signal 3 and 4. And those are the big ones. Those are the ones we need to watch for major winter weather, major Arctic outbreak, and all of that stuff that we're going to discuss here later on. Now, let's start with storm signal 1. Not a big deal, but this is Tuesday morning, and you'll notice some rain working through the Ohio Valley there from Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and really not producing much severe weather, much winter weather, but could produce some gusty winds and some thunderstorms, not out of the question with that one. But it's really Tuesday overnight into Wednesday morning that this begins to kind of phase a little bit off the coast of the Northeast, and the GFS model here that you're looking at tries to get some snow into the interior Northeast and on the backside with some northwest flow through West Virginia, Ohio, and then even a little bit of lake effect beginning back towards Michigan. So not a big deal with that one. I think could produce snow in those regions, and you'll really notice here Wednesday morning heavier snow into the mountains of Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York through the Adirondacks. I think the usual suspect places into the interior that are more elevation driven is what this storm is going to be. So nothing for the I-95 corridor here to start the new year, but what this does do is produce much cooler air, and again, kind of a little bit of lake effect here on the backside, but more importantly, like I mentioned, is setting the tone for the pattern, beginning to cool things down, and then that sets us up for what is going to be a very active month. Now, snow signal here, this is the GFS ensembles, and not a big signal, but notice definitely kind of increasing snowfall chances through the middle of this coming week into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then back into kind of portions of Maine towards the Canadian border, back out also towards the New Hampshire border. A good couple of inches in those higher elevations, maybe even the mountains of West Virginia. Some northwest flow could definitely pick up something, and then you'll notice a little bit of a lake effect signal here as well, but not a big deal, that one, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. Let's go ahead and get down into the nitty gritty though of this pattern change. And it's going to be one, folks, that you're going to feel, and it's going to cause some problems. So let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. This is the GFS ensembles, and let me move this ahead into time and kind of pick us up where we left off. So here we go. This is Wednesday morning of this coming week. This is New Year's Day. This is January 1st, the start of 2025. Here's that little signal for some sort of storminess in the Northeast, the one we just looked at, but watch kind of what begins behind it. Just all of this blue beginning to fill in, indicating little pieces of energy and colder air setting up shop for the first couple of days of January in the eastern half of the country. And I'll move this further ahead into time, and you'll notice that kind of locks into place. And then here comes the first big storm signal, the first of the big two, as I'm going to call them, or storm signal number 3 and 4, like I mentioned earlier. And like I said, signal 2 isn't really much of a signal. It's just kind of this period right into later next week, kind of that Thursday, Friday time frame, some energy likely kind of swinging on through as this cold air works in. And this could produce a quick clipper or something like that, but not really a big deal. The bigger deal, or the first of the bigger deals, I should say, comes right into here. Notice strong troughing showing up on the GFS. This is right around the 4th, the 5th, the 6th of January. A big block of cold air. It's itself could be Arctic air, at least polar air. In that time frame, that could produce a winter storm. And then here comes the bigger signal. Notice a trough dipping instead of just kind of flying right into the east, this time dipping kind of out into the plains, winding up, starting positively tilted, becoming negatively tilted throughout time here. As we get into this second signal right here. This is, we'll say, the 7th, 8th, the 9th of January. This is big signal number 2 on the GFS ensemble here. And this is, brand new off the hot off the press here. And look at how this settles in. This is the 8th of January, that Wednesday, about a week and a half or so from now. And the center of this trough parked right over the Ohio Valley. Strong, big block of cold air. And this would bring the potential for the first Miller A storm that we've seen in quite some time. This could bring snow well into the south, folks. I mean, the deep south is on snow watch with that one. As we go a little bit closer towards the 10th or so of January. And it's not just the GFS ensembles, the European ensembles also showing the same idea. Here we go. This is kind of the same time period. Storm signal 1 right into here. You notice that big block of cold air in the east. We've got ridging out west, ridging up into Greenland to kind of block this and producing that cold air. Now, storm signal 1 here, I think is going to be kind of a little bit tougher to get snow further south, but I think this one could have big snow potential up into the northeast and into the Ohio Valley and Midwest. Storm signal 2, that's the one right in here on the European ensemble. Again, same time frame, January 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. That general ballpark here, a big, beautiful block of cold air. And I say beautiful if you want snow, not so beautiful temperature-wise, and I'll show you why in a moment. But the center of this trough parked right over the Ohio Valley. This thing's digging all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico, and this is going to produce the potential, again, for some sort of maybe Miller A storm that gets going in the Gulf. Crosses through the Gulf and maybe rides up the coast. And that's exactly what the overnight European model showed. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. But before we get there and before we kind of get too excited and carried away with snow, let's go and just talk about the temperatures because this kind of looked a little bit fun a couple days ago. We're getting into territory, though, folks, where this is turning from a fun kind of snowy pattern to potentially dangerous cold. And really, heart goes out to those folks, especially in places like Western North Carolina, where we still have people living in tents. This could truly be dangerous. If you live in a place without heat or anything like that, well into the south, go ahead and prepare now. Start thinking of ways that maybe you can mitigate the cold. Start thinking about leaking faucets and all here through the month of January. Any kind of normal precautions you would take during a big cold outbreak is something you're probably going to want to take here into the long run. So let's talk about it. This is this afternoon, still that mild Pacific jet. It's been warm. It's going to stay warm today. But as we go into the middle of this week, here's that pattern change initiator. And we'll get this into Thursday morning here. Nothing unbearable on the ensembles, and I'll add this is the European ensemble, average departure from normal in the temperature range. So, for example, you see -11 over or -9 over Nashville. That does not mean it is 9 below zero. That means you're 9 degrees cooler than what you normally are on January 2nd in any other given year. So, again, definitely gets chillier. We get back down to winter by the middle of this coming week, but that's just the appetizer. Once we start getting towards these big storm signals that I mentioned, towards the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and then the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, those kind of two time frames. Look at this. Ensembles now getting 10, 20, maybe even 25 degrees below what we should be this time of year. This is, the first of the big two storm signals by the time we get towards the first weekend of January. And then after that, folks, this is when things get really kind of not good looking. Towards the 10th or so of January, maybe a couple days before that, the ensemble mean, and again, this is not just one model, this is the blend of basically all of the European members, already showing temperatures 25 to 30 degrees below what they should be this time of year. I mean, that is dangerous cold. That is not fun stuff for anybody, I can guarantee you, and it really drops it right into a highly populated area east of the Rockies here, basically the entire east, from Florida to Maine to Texas to the Dakotas. Showing well below average temperatures, and then the model hangs on to that for the extended period of time. This gets us all the way into the 13th or the 12th or so of January, kind of starting back, at least that's when I go back to school. I don't know when other universities go back to school, but definitely just dangerous cold. We're kind of, at a loss for words on that one with the models. Not often at all that you see that sort of agreement in the ensembles this far out. And if you think that's crazy agreement, wait till I show you the agreement on snowfall chances here in just a moment. And trust me, I know this video is going to be long, but I think the breakdown is important. All right, same map, but let me show you just the operational run. This is not the ensembles. This is kind of what one member of the European or the operational run is kind of showing. And we'll move this ahead. Here's that first little cool down, middle of next week. Again, we talked about that one. It's definitely going to bring the chill, but then comes the dangerous cold potential. Here's kind of cold shot number one. This is around that first storm signal, the 5th or so of January, towards the end of the first weekend of January. And you're thinking, all right, well, what's this? I didn't see this on the ensembles. This is actually a storm cranking up. So what you've probably got here is a low pressure over Missouri, just bringing absolutely insane warm air advection through that low-level jet process, and then comes the boom behind it, if you will, behind a cold front that would be situated right into here, and then a warm front probably kind of in that region as well. So that's kind of why you're seeing this on the operational run. It's actually depicting the storm that the ensembles aren't. But here comes that dangerous cold, folks. Here's the first shot of it. This is the morning of the 7th of January. Back up into Montana, Wyoming, we're talking nearly 50 degrees below what it should be this time of year. Widespread 20 to 30 degrees below what it should be through the Midwest and the South. And then an even, kind of big shot of cold air settles in, comes down out of really right out of the Arctic, to be honest, but from the Montana area, at least on this map. And check this out. This is the 9th of January, folks. This is about 10, 11, 12 days from now. So trust me, I get it. It's far out. The models change, but I'll be honest, I would be shocked if this does not happen. Now, maybe not quite to this extent. Maybe we're 20, 30 degrees below average instead of 30, 40, nearly 50 that some of these models are showing, but the Arctic air is going to come. I feel very confident in that. It's going to happen. The question is exactly where is the worst of it and what is the severity of it? But right now, the model's locking in on a big Arctic outbreak into the east through at least the first half of January. And then notice this, look up here, another little block of cold air all the way towards the middle of the month. So not a pattern that looks to be fleeting, a pattern that looks to really be kind of settling in here on the models. All right, now that we've talked about crazy cold, let's try to talk about some snowfall potential here, which obviously is probably something that you're a little more interested in. So here we go. This is the latest GFS for this Saturday. We're going to talk about the two big snowfall potentials in depth here. Now, you're seeing all this energy right in here. This is kind of that Clipper energy, or storm number 2 signal, or signal 2, as I kind of called it earlier. Not a big signal here, but I do think someone maybe in this area could pick up on little kind of rounds of snow. Not a big winter storm by any means, but something that definitely could produce wintry precipitation. Here's the actual signal, though. You see this energy back into the PNW, almost identical to what we're seeing right now. And I'll tell you, the atmosphere comes in waves. It's going to do it again. Basically, a week from right now, bringing a storm right into Washington State once more, and going to take a similar track to the storm early this coming week. It's going to dive down into the plains, and then likely this one, I think, is going to probably cut through the Ohio Valley. So that's why I said in that 5th, 6th, 7th time frame, probably not going to see the snow down into the south, but could see a big winter storm into the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and into the Northeast. Notice the GFS here dives this energy south, gets it into the Ohio Valley, and this is that process I talked about, starting positively tilted, then becoming neutrally tilted around the 5th, and then becoming negatively tilted through the 6th as it kind of moves on up through the Northeast. And after that, look at this. Here's the big one. This is right around the 8th, the 9th, that general time frame, that storm signal on the GFS. Strong energy pulling well south, starting positively tilted well back here towards New Mexico, Texas, and then becoming neutrally tilted right over the Gulf of Mexico, right over Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana around the 7th, and then negatively tilted as it rides up the coast. And that is the one that we're really going to watch for major snowfall potential well south and then up through the I-95 corridor. European model, folks, same general idea. We'll kind of start it here. This is next Friday. Here's that storm signal beginning into the Northern Rockies, into the Pacific Northwest. Same story, going to kind of dive right into a regime like this. More of a Miller B look on this storm, meaning that, again, it kind of rides through the Ohio Valley, and then right around here, maybe 7, 8, 9 days from now, could try to phase, meaning you could have low pressure here that then kind of transforms off the coast, and this could very well produce a big nor'easter, not out of the the question at all. But kind of for my folks in the south and along the I-95 corridor, this one, we'll absolutely watch it. Could do something big for us, probably a bigger deal for the Ohio Valley. Then here's the other piece of energy, though. Right around 10 or so days, notice this big energy diving south. And this is the process I was talking about. Positively tilted right here. This is about the 8th of January down into the desert southwest. Then neutrally tilted right around here over kind of Alabama, Georgia, and then becoming negatively tilted. I'll add this is the night of January 9th, that kind of Friday, and then becoming negatively tilted over the northeast. So let's stop messing around a little bit. What does all of this mean? And I'm going to go ahead and just show you the fun one. This is the European model from overnight. This kind of probably broke the internet a little bit, and let's run through it. So this is the middle of this week. Here's that storm system we talked earlier. Here is kind of these little pieces of energy. You see these little snowflakes? That's what I meant by maybe some rounds of snow. Not a lot showing up on the global models right now, but I think as we go further ahead and get closer and get towards mesoscale range, we'll probably see more showing up on the map. So we'll watch that, but here comes the big storm signal. This is the 5th, or really kind of the night of the 4th into the 5th of January next weekend. Starts in the Pacific Northwest, ejects out of the Rockies. We've got strong low pressure here right over Oklahoma, Kansas, kind of just a more amplified version of what we're going to see early this coming week with heavy snow from Iowa, Nebraska, up into the Midwest, and then crosses right through the Ohio Valley. And this is next Sunday night. So basically a week from right now, we've got a big severe weather threat in the south. We've got an ice storm and a snowstorm to the north, and just a classic kind of mid-latitude cyclone crossing through the lower 48 on the European in only about a week. So this storm signal, it's getting closer into tracking time and not so much storm signal time. The storm signal's there. Most of the models show it. Now it's just kind of, we're going to have to find out the specifics, but that crosses through, also creates a big winter storm in the northeast. Not so much for the I-95. Like I said, I think the signal for the first week into January is less of an I-95 event, more of an Ohio Valley, Midwest, and interior northeast event, at least winter weather-wise. Now everyone's probably going to see impacts from it. The southeast on this run, again, a big severe weather threat. We'll obviously watch it. And produces, I mean, that's a strong storm, folks, just off the coast of the Northeast there, with a 976 millibar low between that 7 to 10 day time frame. Then comes the bigger storm signal, and I'm going to go ahead and pause right here and tell you what I'm about to show you is not a forecast. It's not Gerald saying, me and all of my, great friends are telling you there's going to be a massive winter storm in the south come the 8th or 9th of January. But what I am going to tell you is there's a signal for it. It's a very real possibility. In fact, I would say this is the best signal for snow we've seen in quite some time in the south. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you, oh, the models change every second and this one's going to change. What I am going to say, though, is we've got a long way to go before we lock in the specifics on this one, but my confidence is increasing by the day for some sort of southern wintry precipitation towards the 7th through the 10th or so of January. All right, here we go. This is the European. Here we go. Low pressure beginning to form down towards Texas. This is the morning of the 8th of January. We've got a major winter storm through really the entire state of Texas. As the storm amplifies, we've got a major winter storm from the Gulf Coast in Louisiana up through Mississippi, Alabama, Atlanta, South Carolina into North Carolina. This is overnight of the 8th into the 9th. And again, it's well out there, so do not take the specifics on this, but just look at the pattern. A major winter storm in the southeast. Then this thing cranks up into the mid-Atlantic. Just a big-time storm moves up into the northeast. Blockbuster nor'easter on this model run of the European. And then kind of finally calms down by the 11th or so, but behind it, true Arctic air spills southward, and we get locked in the freezer. Now, what about the GFS? Again, that was a crazy run in its own right. Does the GFS kind of agree? Well, this is the morning run of the GFS. We'll just go ahead and kind of breeze on through it here. Here's that little, again, clipper potential later next week that I mentioned, but compared to everything else, that's not too big of a deal. Here comes the first storm signal. Further south on the GFS model, snow through the Ohio Valley, ice into Kentucky, Tennessee. A little bit more of a Miller B look here. We've even got ice into the Alps from North Carolina, the foothills of North Carolina, up into Virginia. Again, severe weather potential into Dixie Alley by next weekend. With that one, and just a blockbuster looking winter storm from Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and surrounding states, then gets into the Northeast, a blockbuster snowstorm for you folks, the GFS, further south. So we've got a winter storm for even portions of the I-95. Again, we'll iron out all the details. We'll find out who gets what, but a major storm signal there around the 5th or so of January, kind of next weekend. And then comes the other storm signal on the GFS, and here it is, just not quite fully aligning like the European, but you see the snow down into Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and all of this energy rotating around what is a true Arctic air mass here. Again, this is all just a big block of cold air, and you're getting little pieces of vorticity to swing around it, and those are what could potentially produce the big snow as we go towards the 8th, 9th, and 10th of January. All right, so the operational runs are cool and all. What about the ensembles, though? This is the stuff that really matters. So this is the chance of at least an inch of snow, and we'll just talk about kind of the two big storms. This is, here we go. We'll move this further ahead. This is the first big storm potential, and notice a big block of higher probability of snowfall through the Ohio Valley and up into the Midwest. Now, you'll also notice a lot lower down here into the south. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas. Not a huge chance of snow out of this first big storm. This is next weekend, but much higher chances through the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, into Wisconsin, Michigan, states like that, I think, can have the higher chance with this one. And then you'll even notice chances increasing into the Northeast with that storm on the European ensembles here. Now, here's the second storm, and this is where things get truly pretty crazy, folks. Look at this blossom of snowfall potential well down into the deep south, into the Carolinas, the mid-Atlantic, up into the Northeast. It is not very often that we see a signal this strong for snow this far out on an ensemble, let alone a model like the European that is normally pretty good with this sort of thing. And you see these higher end chances of snow. I mean, we're already running a 20 to 30% chance of accumulating snow in places like North Carolina outside of the mountains in that kind of 10 to 11 and 12 day time frame. And we'll take a look at this. This is even crazier, folks. This is kind of the mean of snowfall within a 24-hour period. Here's the first big snow signal. There we go. The model's already showing a good mean of about 2 inches or so in the Chicago area, and kind of just really bullseyed right over the Midwest for next weekend's storm. That kind of swings even on through the Northeast. You'll notice snow potential out of that. And then the bigger storm signal right here, I mean, look at this. This is a beautiful signal for snow along the I-95 corridor from South Carolina all the way up the East Coast into Virginia, including the major cities, Philadelphia, D.C., Baltimore, Boston, already running a 2-inch mean. Portions of the interior Northeast already running, a 4-inch mean of snowfall just within that little 24-hour time frame. And I'll show you the same thing on the GFS. We'll kind of breeze through this before this video goes way too long. But here we go. Storm signal 1. Again, that's the Midwest one. That's the one, we'll iron out the details, but I think the Midwest has the best shot of snow with that one. And then storm signal 2 on the GFS ensembles, not as clear, but just in general, notice how snow chances hang around through the extended period through the east from, here's the first shot about the 5th, the 6th of January, all the way through the run into the 12th and into the 13th and 14th, and then maybe finally kind of moderating a bit well down the road. But you get the point, a snowy, potential blockbuster snow pattern in that time frame. And this is the final thing I'll show you. This is total snowfall on the European ensembles between this moment and through the evening of January 12th. And it's kind of blowing my mind to even look at it. But you're seeing an average of 7-8 inches of snow here into portions of Ohio, Indiana. Check this out, though. A place like Charlotte, North Carolina has a 4-inch mean of snow, meaning you put all the ensemble members together and you don't add them up, but you average them. So all the good ones and the bad ones put together. I mean, we're talking 4 inches in Charlotte. Now, again, that does not mean 4 inches of snow is going to fall in Charlotte, but what it means is there is a very impressive signal for snowfall in the mid-Atlantic, the South. I mean, look at this, Washington, D.C., snow hole of the world, running half a foot mean on the models, and then you just, you get up towards a foot or so into the interior Northeast through the next 10 to 15 days. So again, nothing set in stone right now. I'm not telling you we're going to see major winter storm at your house, but what I will say is the pattern is absolutely ripe for big snow and definitely Arctic air as we go into the first half of January and starting the new year. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you. Again, a lot to talk about. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint here in the future as we go into the new year. Probably going to start doubling up on the videos, going to do some live streams in the evenings here through the next week or two, and I'll keep you informed and break down all of this in the future. Alrighty, y'all have a great one. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all next time.